And welcome everybody to the April 9th, 2024 Midtown Redevelopment Meeting. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Renee Richardson,
Here.
Ms. Davita Bonner,
Here.
Ms. Tangela Hardy,
Present.
Ms. Joan Shepard,
Here.
Mr. Lynn Thompson, Ms. Kathy Washington,
Present.
and Pastor Eddie Lake.
Present.
Okay. We'll move forward with the invocation and asking our pastor and new member, Pastor Lake, to do the invocation, please.
Excellent. Will do. Thank you. Let us pray. Father, in Jesus' name, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity together as the Midtown Redevelopment Board. And as we meet today, we pray that you are honored and glorified as we do the best work that we can to partner together with all of our elected officials, with all of the citizens, and with law enforcement and every organization that makes this city better. We pray, God, that you would guide our footsteps, give us insight mentally, emotionally, physically, and financially to meet every need according to your riches and glory. And so we thank you for this privilege to serve the people today. Give us witty inventions to make it possible to work together, to collaborate, and to see it come to fruition. In Christ Jesus' name, we pray for this fair city, that everything that we do will prosper. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. The Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Although this is not on the agenda, I would like to provide a warm welcome to our new board member, Pastor Eddie Lake. If you could take a minute to introduce yourself.
All right. Thank you so very, very much. Glad to be here. Eddie Lake, Senior Pastor of Allen Chapel AME Church in Midtown. I am extremely excited to be a part of this wonderful collaboration. I am well married to the Reverend Dr. Paula Lake, who is a professor, and we have two lovely children, one graduating from FAU in a couple of weeks, and one who is a junior at Mainland. Go Bucks. So we're excited about our transition. Look forward to working with each and every one of you, and I'm excited. Let's go to work.
Okay. All right.
Moving along, we will have, has everyone had an opportunity to review the agenda? Can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please? A second?
A second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed sign, like sign? Motion for the agenda is approved. Moving forward to item 6, approval of the minutes for March 12th, 2024. Has everybody had an opportunity to view the minutes? Any recommended changes? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move the approval of the minutes of March 12th, 2024.
Okay.
I second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, same like sign. Motion carries for the approval of the minutes for March 12, 2024. And we are moving along to number 7, Daytona Center rezoning. Ms. Tolliver?
Madam Chair, board members, I'm here to present item 7, the First Amendment to the Daytona Center Plan District. I'm Michelle Tolliver, the project manager for Midtown. DEV 2022-189, quasi-judicial hearing. This is a request by Robert Merrill, Cobb Cole, on behalf of Mr. Podre of Daytona Center LLC to amend the Daytona Center Plan District Agreement to add property and rezone 7.73 plus or minus acres of land located at 1008 West International Speedway Boulevard from Plan Development General to Plan Development Redevelopment, PDRD, zoning, to also include additional uses and site improvements. This slide shows the current site location. The lower part of the diagram is the property that's being added, and it's on the northeast corner of West ISB and Nova Road. This is an aerial view of the current conditions and the property. The current property as well as the existing property shows that the site is fully developed. The next slide shows the current land use, and on both parcels, it is retail. The next slide shows the current zoning and the proposed zoning. The current zoning shows on the north end of the property the planned development redevelopment, and the lower portion is the planned development general. That's the portion where the aquarium is. And then the proposed zoning shows that the entire property will be zoned PDRD, planned development redevelopment. The Daytona Center Plan District Agreement was approved by the City Commission on January 6, 2021 by ordinance number 2021-20 for 18.9 plus or minus acres at 100 North Nova Road to expand the permitted uses, which include various commercial, institutional, and non-residential uses. The applicant is requesting approval of the First Amendment to expand the boundaries to add property and to rezone 7.73 plus or minus acres located at 1008 West International Speedway Boulevard from Planned Development General, PDG, to Planned Development Redevelopment, PDRD, to include additional uses and site improvements. The next slide shows the planned development plan for the entire property. The next slide is the waiver and modifications requested by the applicant from the Land Development Code. In your agenda packets that were mailed to you, there were details listing each one of the sections in the Land Development Code. This slide shows a summary of that. And the next slide, I wanted to point out the proposed additional uses. I think I have about 3 pages of them, but I wanted to highlight on the first slide that in the original agreement, there was no residential uses proposed or included. This amendment is including an upper story dwelling. The next slide, I wanted to highlight that the nightclub use is being proposed with the subject to the following conditions. This was also included in your packet, but I just wanted to highlight that because with the nightclub, there are specific conditions that must be complied with once this use is in place. And the next slide, I wanted to point out that the alcohol beverage sales and services is limited to 1 use from the category below within the entire property. And then on the last slide, I wanted to point out that temporary overnight parking for RVs only is included as an additional use. And the recommendation before you, provided all Land Development Code modifications and waivers are accepted, staff recommends approval to expand the boundary and rezone 7.73 plus or minus acres of land located at 1008 West International Speedway Boulevard from Planned Development General, PDG, to Planned Development Redevelopment, PDRD, to also include additional uses and site improvements. A majority vote by the Midtown Redevelopment Board members present and voting is required to recommend approval to the Planning Board and the City Commission. The item is tentatively scheduled to be heard by the Planning Board on April 25th, 2024, and by the City Commission for first reading on May 1st, 2024, and the second reading, public hearing on May 15th, 2024. That concludes staff's presentation. Are there any questions?
Mr. Thompson?
Yeah, I have a question. Currently, the I guess the anchor to that entire plot of land is right now the aquarium.
On the south end, yes.
But I mean, that is the whole anchor to the whole lake.
Yes, yes.
And there's one nightclub in the whole place right now,
Correct,
and that's limited to one night.
yes.
Okay. And also, is the bingo parlor still there?
Yes, it is, yes, yes,
So you got a lot of mixed use. You got
correct.
the gym, you got this,
Grocery
the
store,
grocery store still there, a couple of eating establishments. Did you mention something about residential upstairs?
yes. They will be allowed to do residential as long as it's above a non-residential use. Retail on the bottom, upper story residential.
Is that inside the building or on the exterior?
Currently, I don't know if there's any opportunity. I know the attorney representing the applicant is here, but I'm not sure where they would propose that. But that may require improvements to the property. I don't know where that is offered currently, but Mrs. Gow is representing the applicant, and she's going to come up next. I'm not sure where they're proposing to add that.
Well, I'll just withhold the two more
Yep.
questions.
All
Pastor
right.
Lake, you have any questions? No? Ms. Shepherd?
Not at this time.
Ms. Washington?
Not at this time.
Mr. Bonner? Ms. Harding?
No question.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, Jessica Gow with Cobb Cole Law Firm, 149 South Road Avenue, Daytona Beach, Florida. Started my morning here for special magistrate, so I get to end it here. It's fun. I just want to go over a little bit of history, and then I'll get into the question that was raised too. This site, almost like the U-Haul site that we brought before you, is a fun retrofit. So this one too, we started in 2022, and it's harder to fit in existing uses than new development, is what we have found. So it's been a lot of back and forth with staff to just make sure that it all works correctly. So in 2020, we adopted the original PD agreement on the majority of this site. And then the property owner wanted to add in, at the time, what was the Burlington, which is now the aquarium. Part of it is that at that time, we thought for the aquarium use to be permitted, we'd have to add it to the PD to allow that use. But we worked with city staff to find out that we could really classify that under an already existing use on the property so that they could get developed and open. We're really excited about that. But we are still modifying some of the use standards for the aquarium and the proposed PD so that they can have events like weddings within that use. So the main scope of the request is to, again, allow for events at the aquarium and some alcoholic beverages there. In your packet, there's a two-phased landscape plan. One is the landscape plan for the, let me get my direction right, the northern portion, which is the exact landscape plan that this board and the commission ultimately approved for the first set of properties. And then there is an overall PD plan that was prepared for this rezoning that shows the landscaping improvements that we're suggesting for the Burlington site, and it's on the screen now. And so in better detail in your packet, anywhere that it shows gridding, or actual planting materials is where the existing site's parking areas will be supplemented. And so you see in front of that aquarium, a great illustration. There's landscape islands out there now, but they're not really planted. There are some palms out there, but they need some more life. And so we're contemplating putting those in. As we were going through this process, there was a discussion with the city with a tenant that is operating a nightclub on the site. And so we pulled that request in. It is a tenant request, but we have worked with the owner and the city to kind of clarify the development standards applicable to that nightclub use. There can only be one. You have to have security on the premises at all times. We met with Chief Jakari Young to kind of go through the issues they're seeing out there and what operational standards should be in place. And with one nightclub, we've also restricted it to say, we don't want this center to become a hub for alcohol sales and nightclubs and activities like that, which is why you get one nightclub. It has to be 500 feet away from any other use that serves alcohol. And within the entire planned district, there can only be one other use where alcoholic sales are the main purpose. And so we kind of did the spacing among staff and our team. We figured you might get one more spot, or you might get a wine bar or something like that. We also limited signage. When we went through that list that staff had up on the modifications, all of those modifications were approved on the northern side from the original PD. The only new modification is that we didn't quantify signage when we first came through. We just kind of said the signs are there and they can remain. With this PD, we've said this is exactly how much signage exists on the site today, and here's how we'll address new tenants and things like that. And then we did talk about the RV parking. I wanted to clarify, allowing the temporary RV parking on this site, subject to the code requirements, would not allow that use associated with the Bike Week master plan. That would be its own separate permitting process. And then on the question for the residential on the upper floor, it's not contemplated in the current structure. So the PD plan has a few spots, one on the hard corner, and then one a little farther to the south, and one in the rear of potential outparcels, areas of the parking lot that could be developed in the future for some uses. It could be either a large overhaul redevelopment of this site occurs under this PD, and we wanted the ability to have some mixed use function with residential on the second floor, kind of like what you see with Zapping Down or the Jack White Lofts concept. So we built that in, but there's no current plan for it. And with that, I think I've hit my high points, and I'm here for questions.
Okay, so I'll start. What is the plan of things that you're trying to actually bring into that space? Because I know that at one time when I first kind of joined this board, it was a discussion about having a liquor store or something they wanted to try to bring in, and it was some pushback on different things that they could bring in that space. So what are they actually trying to bring into this that would fit into what is already there?
Sure. So I will tell you what I know from the first go around is that in 2020, when we first brought this project forward, the project owner basically said, I want every use I can possibly have to help for redevelopment of the center. And it included some uses that this board and the planning board and commission agreed were not appropriate for the site and were removed based on the recommendation of this board. Currently, the center is doing pretty well in terms of vacancy rates, especially with the aquarium coming in. And so when we went through in 2020, the user that they were looking at was a call center, like a data call center. That was the main one. We did have a probation center that came in during that process. That remains on site in the rear, I believe. But there's no specific user that we're modifying this PD for specifically to allow, except for the nightclub use that's already there to continue.
Okay, so I want to make sure that I understand. So you want to make provisions, or you want the approval to make the changes to rezone it for something else to be able to add extra things that's going to be coming in. Even though the nightclub is already there, you will be including other items or other businesses that you want to be able to place in here, and all of the businesses that were there is potentially being able to come in.
So those additional uses, and I'm going to ask Michelle to confirm, are the new uses for the overall site, and they're pretty, I'll say they're pretty limited. There were a lot, but when you look at the overall use list, it's much longer than what Michelle showed up on the screen.
Okay.
And so those uses that we outlined were, some public uses and clarifications on use standards like the nightclub and the residential. But most of the use list was approved for the northern half the last go around.
Okay.
There's not really anything for the northern half that is a new kind of use. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I add to that, just to clarify? The current business license for Visions is for a dance hall and a restaurant. What Visions will have to do if this moves forward to the May 15th approval for public hearing from the commission, Visions will have to apply for a nightclub license. So they'll change from being a dance hall to a nightclub. And that's the only clarification I wanted to make.
Okay. Pastor Lake, do you have any questions? Mr. Thompson?
Yeah, I was looking at the list. It's a pretty expansive list of uses. From a church to senior citizens, childcare, animal grooming, and I think it's probably, what is inside the facility now? Because I'm thinking back to way back, and I'm sure all of us, I remember when it was real nice, when it was first built, and I haven't been on the interior of the old mall, the Daytona Mall. I think that's what it was originally called.
Yeah.
In decades, you know, I've been on the exterior. Is there life inside it, outside of the aquarium at this point?
So they do have some active tenants in there. I would say there's a beauty store, there's a salon, there's,
I think a nail place.
I would say there's
a
the
nail
nail
place.
salon, are side by side.
Is Save-A-Lot still there?
Save-A-Lot is still there and
I know that-
active.
no,
Yep.
I'm talking about on the.
The inside, yeah.
Inside.
Yeah, there's,
Inside.
I
Yeah,
know
there's-
there's the nail salon there. I've seen people go
Right.
to.
And it doesn't operate, I will say that over time, it's morphed to kind of be standalone inline retail instead of an activated interior mall setup. You've kind of seen that split to where we've looked at development, and when we went through this last time, it was important that we looked at development this way to say, on the rear of the center, these uses might be appropriate, but not on the front. And so
Okay.
we have that separation.
Well, then it begs the question that the chair raised. I mean, I'd really like to see what the vision and the plan is. Because I think that this is a very important space for all of us. It abuts the two of the main travel corridors,
Exactly,
avenues
yes.
for this community, for Midtown. And I think in the future, it could redefine what we are all about. And I know staff probably takes this very seriously. And I, you know, as we move into the future, and I think this is something that this board has to take seriously as we, I don't want to say cast judgment, because especially with Pastor just joining the board, but I mean, I think what we say or what we think will weigh very heavily on the planning board and even the commission. We want to encourage new business activity, but we want the right type of things to happen there, because when I look at this, all these uses, you know, we don't want liquor stores, an abundance of nightclubs, and I'm all for nightlife and everything else, but we want some planning done here. We want it to attract folks, particularly in the core of Midtown. We don't want somebody just to drop something in Midtown that wouldn't fit somewhere else. I hope I'm just speaking from the heart. Okay?
No, that's right. You're absolutely right.
And what I will say is that what we loved in terms of feedback last time we came through this board was we looked at that list and we had board members who said, I don't like this use, or I'd only like it on the rear, or I don't think this is appropriate for the area. And so if you have that feedback that we want to make a part of the recommendation and we'll talk to the owners, that's absolutely something that we can do. Other than the uses that we've kind of pointed out here, they are already permitted on the northern part of the center through the prior rezoning that was approved, subject to those restrictions that we built in terms of location and things like that. So the only new piece is that 7 acres on the front. But in terms of the nightclubs, the RV parking, the aquarium having events, those are all kind of the new pieces.
Questions?
I've got a couple, yes. First of all, you had mentioned that the aquarium is going to be planning on selling beverages. Is that a full bar?
So they are building out their rainforest themed restaurant, and this is what I know from the owner and from discussions with staff. Until they get their full restaurant open, they will eventually have a liquor license associated with that restaurant. Until then, they would like to offer, beer and wine service to guests because they have the bar built, and so they have that opportunity. And so it's built in now to where if they're having events or if they'd like to have that limited sale without the full restaurant, we're providing that ability for them.
My concern is, as Mr. Thompson's is, I don't want that corner to be known as a liquor hangout.
Right.
And you had also mentioned that space requirements also could possibly put in a wine store or something, wine lounge or something. So that's my concern. Now that I've voiced that, my second concern is RVs, parking. Where would that be located? What duration would they be allowed to be there?
So all of that is governed by the land development code. They've got a layout now in terms of, there's a provision in the code now that says if you're within a mile of the speedway, you're allowed to have temporary RV parking during events. We are just allowing that same set of regulations to apply on this site. I don't know that we've had a location criteria discussion, but I believe when it was discussed by the tenant has requested this as well, not the owner, it was in the rear of the structure.
Okay. Once again, my other concern is agreeing with Mr. Thompson is I would personally like to see a more defined plan of the possible uses for the center. I know that some of these are not going to work. I don't know, you've got listed under here boat or marine parts. That seems nonsensical to me. Some of them are like a club or a lodge. That doesn't seem feasible. So I think we need to pare this down a bit.
Sure, and I can note those too. I will say the club or lodge is what the Visions nightclub, I believe, is the use category that it's currently permitted under. So that use is
And that's
developed on
fine.
the
I had
site.
no problem with that. I thought we were looking at future plans here.
This is existing and future.
Okay.
It's the rule book for everything on the property. And so part of that does come into the comment on what's the future of this site. We've had people, not the current owner, but we've had people come in and ask us to take a review and see, could it be townhomes along International Speedway with the mixed-use retail? Could it be this and that? One of the good things about the PD process is that to bring that vision, not the nightclub, but to bring that vision forward, we'd have to go back and amend this document and bring you that specific plan. So really what we're looking at now is the activation of the current site and structure. And if there was more of a major rehaul and redevelopment, it would come back.
Okay, my concern is that it's just too broad as it stands. Okay?
Okay, Ms. Washington?
I like the plan. And I guess I stop and think about what it has been. Going all the way back to, Lynn, I don't know if you remember because you were a little boy, back to when it was the Daytona Drive-In Theater.
Oh, yeah.
So it's come a long way, and I really like what you all are proposing at this point.
Okay. Ms. Bonner? Any questions?
I agree. I think that just making sure that the right things are in there, and it sounds like there is some semblance of that, but just making sure that it is something, I guess, oriented so that everyone would be able to enjoy what's there, and something stable and consistent.
Absolutely. That's what the owner wants too. He wants,
Right.
Yeah.
I say the aquarium was
Yeah.
a great addition to get that, staying power.
Ms. Hardy?
I have 3 questions.
Sure.
Currently, how many open spaces are available inside of
The vacancy rate, I don't have that. I have a current tenant list that I could pull up by email, but it just shows who's already in there. It doesn't show what's empty, I think. I'm sure the owner knows and I could get that information and supplement it, but I don't have it tonight.
Okay. Are there any current, leasing applicants that's offering any of the services that you listed, that's listed in
In
our
the use
documents
list?
today for the future? Are there any current, like somebody potentially wanting to lease a space in that mall that's offering any of these?
Not that I know of. Like I said, the only individuals that I know that have something contingent on this rezoning are the aquarium hosting events and the nightclub use. And so those are the only ones that are waiting, but they're already there in some form.
Okay, and my last one, I think you said earlier that you have a limit of how many people can offer alcoholic services within
Yes.
that
Yes.
hall? Was it, you said?
So what we have done is under the nightclub use, we have said that you can only have one nightclub within the entire planned district. and that it has to be located 500 feet from any other use selling or serving alcoholic beverages as a principal use. And then, under the alcoholic beverage sales and service, which is its own use category, we have said you can only get one use from that category within the entire planned district. And so the nightclub is located where it's located in the rear, and you do a 500-foot circle from that. No alcohol there. That leaves probably, we looked at a few spaces, retail spaces along the southern end, and then the aquarium. And that's really it in terms of where that location could be.
So the chances of it becoming that type of hangout is probably likely not.
And at maximum, you can only have two. So you can have one nightclub, which we know already exists, and then you can have one of the potential alcoholic sales use.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. I had one other question. The aquarium coming was supposed to be geared toward family, children, and they want to have weddings, or they want to have events
Right.
that would serve alcohol and,
Right. And even the Georgia Aquarium in Atlanta, they do weddings in front of their whale shark
okay.
exhibit. Thank you. I was the giant glass thing. I'm following. And I've been to one, and it's amazing. And right now, with the aquarium, they can't do that. They can't really have those events without going through a special event permit each time for the weddings. And they can't sell, say they've got a snack bar and things like that for guests. They can't give the stressed out dad a beer, over lunch or something like that. So.
Okay. Well, our decision is to approve this to move forward. Yes, yes. So is there anyone in the public that would have a question about this? No? Okay, all right. So again, I want to make sure that I understand. We are to vote on moving this recommendation to the next step?
Correct, and obviously, it's this board's making a recommendation to the planning board. You can condition your recommendation on anything you'd like, subject to the applicant's acceptance of whatever those conditions may be. So there's some discussion about some uses that are listed that the board is uncomfortable with. If you want a condition on removal of such or limitation of it, I think Jessica's already talked about some limitations that they've already agreed to impose, particularly as it relates to the nightclub. But if there's some other conditions that you feel you want to condition your recommendation on, you're free to do that. If you want to move forward as the applicant has presented, you're free to do that as well. So,
So, yes.
If I could, I think that, I think we need to send a message that
Okay.
that while we are certainly in favor of economic growth, we want to make sure it's done the right way, the right type of growth, because we want Midtown, we want development in Midtown, but we want it done the right way, and we want the right type of economic development to occur in Midtown. And we want that, I think that message needs to be conveyed the right way. If we could, as a body, agree to that, rather than rubber stamping anything that comes our way. I think now is the time for us to do that.
Well, I am definitely in agreement with providing some conditions that we still move forward, but we need to definitely have the concerns and the conditions that we want to express to make sure that we have the right type of development come to that project, as well as making sure that our concerns are at least noted to move forward with the planning board. So are we in consensus with that, having conditions, at least noting that we have some concerns and making sure that the right type of projects come into that space? Yes.
Can I ask one more question? Can I ask the attorney, did she mention that there was a probation office located there?
There's an office
I think it's in the back.
Yeah.
Are there any probation offices located in the other development areas, any other development districts in Daytona Beach?
I'm not certain. I know the probation office, when we came
been
through
there for several
originally,
years.
was restricted to the rear of the property, and that is where it currently exists. So,
Well, I'd like to know if there's some probation offices located in the Beach Street development area or any other development areas in town. Because
I can verify that, but just off the top of my head, I don't believe downtown redevelopment has a probation office in their redevelopment area. Beachside does not have a probation office in there.
Curious,
Yeah.
They don't.
Midtown, I believe, is the only one.
you know? And I'd like to know if that's not the case, then why? Because why would that be the case in an area, in a very important parcel of land where we're trying to redevelop it?
It's been there for quite some time, and I think when it was established, it was because the facility was practically vacant. And that was just a way that they could make some money, because absolutely nothing was going on over there.
I get it, I
Yeah,
get it, but
that was it.
that was then.
Yeah.
I will
Different
say,
now.
it has been there probably going on 3 years now by the time they got their permit issued. And while I do absolutely, I'll second David's comment, I want the feedback, I want to caution existing uses being removed is not something that our property owner is probably going to review, because the commission has already approved it to be there and it exists. And so we can give that feedback, and maybe if it's time to renew a lease down the line, we can look at a more exciting use. But pulling out a use would be kind of a regulatory issue.
That's fine, I just think we need to put that on the record, that we're concerned about that. I am, I don't know if anybody else is. As we look forward, I just do not want this Midtown, are we on the record? Because I want to on the record. I don't want Midtown to be a dumping ground for stuff like this. I want it to be a garden for great things to sprout forth. New ideas, it's a new day.
Okay. So, Ms. Michelle, you said that this was already going before the planning board, when again?
On April 25th.
Okay.
April 25th.
Okay, so it's this month, okay.
Madam Chair, can we discuss what changes that you want to talk about before we make that decision that
Yes.
everybody may not be in agreement with?
Okay, well, the only thing that I wanted to make sure and have on record is that we have some type of understanding what actually is going to go there. It's not a vast list of 15 things that's a possibility of going there. We need to make sure that it is kind of catered to us not having so many. I know that it may have the ability to have those uses, but we need to make sure that we don't have alcohol in 2 or 3 slots and different things that's not appropriate that's in the master plan for our area. We need to definitely make sure that is what we do, and have a voice for that. So is it something that our board feels that should not be there or concerned? Anything that was on the list? Anything that was?
Well, there are several things. I was quickly going over the list, and there's no need for self-storage, there's no need for a gas station, motor vehicle sales, a farmer's market. That's why I'm saying it needs to be pared down. This is a very broad and vast list.
Can we, just a suggestion, maybe table this and then come together and, I guess, come up with the list and then,
At this point, it may not be able to be tabled because it's going before the planning board.
Okay.
April 20, yeah, that's why I wanted to see.
Okay.
So we have to make a decision. I think that we can come to a consensus that we need to have something written or something explained or voiced to express our concerns about what we want to make sure that we are aware of what is actually going to be going there, and it does not, end up being things that we don't want there, that we're not in agreement to. We don't want to just give a blank, response.
The list that Jessica had, excuse me, the list that Jessica has is pretty much narrowed down as to what they've been speaking with the owner about. So she can tell us specifically what is there in opposition to what could possibly be what they've discussed already.
And I do want to highlight one thing that Jessica mentioned that's important here. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding, so it would be inappropriate to try to remove uses that already exist.
Right.
Yeah.
We get that.
Right.
Yeah, we get that.
Okay.
And I think it's appropriate for us to at least have our feelings known about, this is, we get that.
And I do think this, probably the best slide for this discussion, if we can with the IT guys, who I can't see anymore and I miss being able to see them, is going back to the list of the new uses that we're suggesting, because the rest are all already approved. And so it's really this section, these 3 slides that kind of go together, that are new. Everything else has already been approved by commission for the northern part of the site, but if there were uses in there that you don't want to see on the southern part of the site ever, we could also condition that. Just like we conditioned front versus rear last time.
If you could go back one slide.
Madam Chair, just for the record, from now on, I'm going to number my slides, but the additional proposed uses starts with the residential uses.
Okay.
Alcohol, beverage sales, and service is just about,
Okay.
go one more. Yeah, forward. I'm sorry, back, yeah,
Okay.
right there. That starts the list.
Okay. So I think the concern kind of falls into that second slide, because a lot of the things that's on the first slide, back one more. Not that one, the next one, I guess.
I think alcohol.
Proposed, okay,
Yeah.
wait a minute. Can you go back one more? No, it was another one that was before that, that one. That one doesn't have, I don't see like a discussion about any of those things. Any of those items would fit into that space to be beneficial for our area. Go to the next slide. What concerns some board members is the boat and marina stuff. That would definitely, the boat and the marina. And we don't even have a problem with the nightclub or the 500 feet of selling alcohol, but it's the next slide. That, because that's, the bar lounge, the boutique lounge, the craft distillery, the micro brewery, those things is, it's just like a haven of things that could possibly go there. But then you also said the nightclub is one, and then if the, what is it, the aquarium has alcohol, you said it's still possible to have 2 other.
One other. So 2 total, where
Okay.
the alcoholic sales are the principal use of the property.
Okay, so the nightclub would have a principal use, correct? And then the aquarium would have a principal use or no?
Accessory. So the aquarium serving beer and wine to people who are using their indoor restaurant is
Okay.
accessory to the aquarium overall. So if you had a restaurant developed, they could serve beer and wine.
Okay.
If you have a Mexican restaurant, you can still get a margarita.
Okay,
Things like that. Yeah.
all right.
The cigar lounge.
Cigar lounge is on the list. Yep.
Yeah.
But no
Okay, wait.
drive-throughs. There's drive-throughs on this list that I don't see being feasible.
There are out parcels for development, but that has already been approved by
Yes,
commission.
and that's not in this proposal.
Right.
So let me, okay, I want to make sure I understand. So the nightclub is one, and you're saying that even though the, oh God, the aquarium is not the main use of that, it's just an added, which is fine. So we could only technically get one other.
One more,
Okay, okay, all right, all right. All right, I just think that we need to definitely capture the category of the alcohol, the brewery, the microbrewery, all of that. Those things and items would be a concern, having that ability to come into that space, since that's one of the added uses.
And I will say, I know this is on the list because we're limiting it to one. I do think the original PD, and I don't have the recorded version, had some of that use already approved,
Okay,
unlimited, and so then we were limiting it down. But if you make the recommendation, we will go back and see which ones are truly new and note that you recommended those don't move forward.
okay.
Question in regards to Ms. Shepherd's statement regarding fast food or drive-through services that is on this list. What was your question?
It's not feasible to have an additional fast food service in this proposal, as it wouldn't be feasible to have a drugstore or pharmacy with a drive-through service feasible. A walk-in pharmacy would be fine, but to have drive-through services as placed here, I don't see where you're gonna put that.
There are 3 spots for potential out parcels that could be developed that are shown on the plan. Those could include a drive.
Are they they're in the plan? Okay.
Already.
Yeah, squared out, kind of in the dashed line.
Okay.
So then that, yeah.
Probably on the corners.
Right, the hard corner,
Yeah.
up on M&B, down a little more to the south, right before you get to the Steak and Shake, and then one in the rear.
There used to be, and I'm sorry, there used to be a auto repair shop on the backside. Is that still there?
Yes.
Yeah, it's still there.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So this is moving forward. We just need to make sure that we tailor it to capture our concerns and what we want to definitely voice our opinion about some of the things, the new, because we cannot address the things that's already there. So, or the proposal that's already, established. We can definitely make a recommendation of some of the concerns of the things that are new. And so that's what we want to vote on, correct? And make sure that we vote that.
Madam Chair, one question too.
Yes.
On office uses. Would it be appropriate for us going forward, because there is probation parole office still on this list here? Would that be appropriate to remove that after the lease?
Is that something that can be discussed?
It's an existing use.
I mean, it's an existing use on the property, and I think
It's already there.
that they'd be free to continue that as long as they have a lease agreement with the property owner.
And your question was, after the lease is up, could we?
Correct. Right.
Is that something that they could propose after, or no?
That item is not before you tonight.
Okay,
I think the attorney mentioned that. We're only looking at additional uses and expanding the boundary
okay.
and the site improvements.
Would it be appropriate that, Madam Chair, that you could get with staff and kind of craft a statement of what we are discussing, the wordsmith that just concerned about moving forward, that our desire is to make sure that we strategically take a look at, taking a look at how we are moving forward in terms of the right types of things and Ken, I mean, you got experience at this, we really want to make a good effort at making sure that the right types of things are sprouting up in Midtown.
We're up.
Right. And if Madam Chair, if the rest of the board agrees to this, because I think it would take us some time to really do it, but maybe if we could just try to capture the essence of what we all feel you get with staff and try to just do it. I'm sure maybe it's been done before, you know?
I think you'd certainly propose a resolution encouraging the types of development you'd like to see come into that,
Yeah.
into that property. But for tonight's purposes, we would need you to make a motion including whatever conditions you want to include in your recommendation so that we can move the application along to the next step in the process.
I'd be glad to do that.
All right. So we are voting on or providing a motion to move this project forward to the planning board as well as the commission, but we want to state we have some concerns that we want to address. So is that part of, we would still move it forward, but have a conversation with you as a resolution once it's gone to the planning board and the commission? Is that something, or we do that before we get to that point?
I would include that in your motion.
In the motion.
That you want
Right.
to.
Provide a resolution
That's
of
done.
things that we want to see, possibility
that.
of going there,
Yes.
added. Okay,
Yes.
all right, okay, we can do that, okay. All right, so,
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion
okay,
that, in moving this forward, that we also resolve to make it plain and clear that this board would like to develop a strategy that the planning board and even the city commission and all future developers clearly understand that the Midtown Redevelopment Board would like to see very positive, strategic development ideas and projects that will enhance Midtown. And we're talking about in terms of every aspect of this community, from education to arts, to development of young people.
and that's part of our resolution, correct? Okay.
The motion.
Okay. So we will be, again, I want to make sure I understand, we are voting on and providing a motion to move this project forward to the planning board with the consensus of us providing resolutions about suggestions for this plan as well as future plans in the Midtown area. And voicing our concerns of what is actually going to be going into this space. That's the,
Yeah, you're keeping your concerns at this space.
yes,
At the current subject
yes,
property.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, all right.
And I know you gotta get a second and.
Yes,
then-
okay.
Then we need to have some more discussion.
Okay,
And I should wait for a second.
okay,
Because one of the things you didn't indicate is, what do you want to take out? Because you can do that now.
okay,
You can say, some of these uses I don't want.
okay. All
Well,
right,
I wasn't through though.
Okay.
okay,
Because I was going to, you heard what I said, but I wanted to also charge the chair to work with staff to include
okay,
many of the issues that the uses that are proposed that we feel should not be in there,
okay,
okay, that we would like removed.
But the purpose of the motion is to identify
Right.
what we're approving to move forward
Right.
tonight. Because once it's approved, it goes forward to the planning board.
Well, then okay, well, if you want to amend what I'm saying, that's fine with me. I will accept a friendly amendment to that, okay? If you want to add, if we want to stop right there, what I'm saying, I will take an amendment to include what you feel we need to remove right now. Okay?
That's what we're,
Okay.
that's what we're
That you're
doing.
recommending.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Heidi Lake, second the motion.
It's a PD agreement, and the final language of the agreement hasn't been formalized at this point, and typically it doesn't happen until after planning board phase. So certainly if there's additional thoughts that you want to convey, I'm sure the applicant will be receptive to, but ultimately it is a PD, so it'd be up to the applicant whether they want to accept those, and it'll be up to the commission about whether they approve their uses at the end. So, if you've identified specific uses tonight that you feel that you cannot recommend approval of this PD to move forward without having those removed, you can certainly condition that your approval on removal of those uses. If you just have this general idea that you want to have a resolution that you present to the commission saying these are our thoughts and this is what we want to encourage in terms of development of this particular property, that's something that can happen at a later date. It doesn't necessarily have to happen.
Yeah.
I can certainly get the ball rolling on that. I have a couple of ideas right off the top here. On page 10 of this proposal, I don't think that we should have motor vehicle sales. I don't think there's appropriate space on any of that property for motor vehicle sales whatsoever. I don't think that there's a need for a gas station on that property. And I don't think that there's room for a hotel or a motel on that property.
Page 10, but I don't know, but I.
Ms. Shepherd,
Yes.
the items that you listed, I think it would be better to use the PowerPoint that I prepared because those uses were not listed on the proposed, the existing uses that are already in the plan development are not subject to be deleted for this item that we're reviewing tonight. The motel, hotel, that definitely is one that is an additional use, so I struck that out.
Okay.
But the automobile sales and the other one that you said,
Right, it was the
Ms. Tullow, we don't have a
self-storage.
copy of that.
yep. What I did tonight was I summarized what I sent to you all in a PowerPoint. Our IT team can pull it back up on the screen, but these are my little
Okay.
self-made summaries of all that thick stuff that I mail out to you.
I should have printed
But he has it up on the screen now. Those uses are the ones listed as additional. So anything on that list is subject for you all to make changes to. Mr. IT man, if you could go back to the residential uses, I think that'll start the review, because that first page they were okay with. Yes, right there. Thank you, Madam Chair. So that's the first page.
Okay,
Anything on that list you want to recommend removing?
And then there are 3 more pages.
is there anyone that would like to have any of those items?
My only concern is I see utility use minor in the same area with the alcohol usage. I know that the hours may be different, except for maybe the aquarium and any future use, but
Utility use.
that's my only concern with that page.
So a utility use minor,
Yes.
that would be,
Is that minors individuals, or is that?
I would need Jessica's interpretation on that use. I don't have the definition off the top of my head.
It is not minors. The utility use and the utility use minor are both public uses. So really, city utilities are publicly owned utilities in the Land Development Code. So that would be FPL or a water treatment. It's not going to be a water treatment. Those are huge. But small things like that.
Okay, like someplace you can come in and pay your bill.
Right.
Okay, okay.
all right. So next page, please. I know that you, Ms. Shepherd wanted to do boats and marine sales, those items. Okay. So those 4 items, is it 4? Yeah, 4 items. Okay. So those 4 items we want to place in consideration not to be added to the list. Maybe that nightclub, let's see, maintain the security, personal, all times, patrons, okay. All right. Is there anything else on that page that anyone would like to take off besides those 4 items? Okay, we can move to the next page. I know that we would have to have 1 additional spot if they decided to do alcohol. And I think that microbrewery, craft distillery, I don't even know what a bouquet bar is. If it's a
And
bar, I'm sure.
Madam
it's
Chair, if I may,
alcohol.
under the existing PD, Jessica was correct in informing you that those uses were permitted.
Okay, so all of these,
It includes brewery, winery, or distillery currently.
okay,
And so one of the things that they're proposing is that they're going to limit,
to 2.
correct?
Okay.
Well, one
One
the
additional because
nightclub,
the nightclub
right.
is already there. Okay,
Okay.
all right.
The only thing that I see on there space-wise would be auditorium or theater.
It used to be a theater there.
Sure was.
It used to be
Do
a
we
theater
still
there.
have space
A
for
movie
that?
theater. It used to be a movie theater.
theater.
Okay, yeah.
Was
It
it
used to
dollar
be a
movie or
theater there.
something?
Don't
What
think-
about manufacturing?
Well, they have
bakery,
a motion
that's
picture
fine.
studio at the bottom.
Manufacturing and production, I mean, you're talking about, that's industry there, I mean, isn't it?
Yeah, the current PD provides for manufactured production uses and then specifically lists brewery, winery, or distillery, craft distillery, so.
Yep. What happened is they changed the use category. He's looking at the original PD, and with the revision, they moved the use to a different category.
Oh.
Okay. So what you're basically saying is those items were already there or considered, so they cannot be removed at this particular point and stuff. All right, let's see the next page, please. Warehouse, storage.
I just want to clarify so that you guys have the full, if we can go back to the last slide. The manufacturing and production uses is the use category. The new uses that we're proposing under there would be the bakery, scientific research, the motion picture studio, and then the other list. It's not a manufacturing and production use,
Okay,
like an industrial use. It's those small ones underneath.
okay.
Can you clarify the more specific, the scientific research? Would that be like people like, I don't know, maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way, but would that be like people like going to like donate blood and stuff like that, Basma?
No, that is a blood and tissue collection center under the code. It's a specific use. The educational, scientific, and industrial research, it's kind of like the Microplex at Embry-Riddle. If Bethune wanted to have something where their business students had an incubator space or something like that where they could do research on a small scale to create a business or a invention, and they wanted to have that space interior, that's kind of that scope.
Okay.
That would fall under what you're talking about, Mr. Thomas? Or Thompson, I'm
Yeah,
sorry?
I'm not, and when she just cleared it up for me when she said.
It's not the
that was
main-
category,
right.
manufacturing,
Yeah.
production,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
bakery, all that fell under that, yeah. That-
Okay.
Yeah, she cleared it up for me.
Okay, all right. And then the last slide for us, please. Visitor accommodation use. So the visitor accommodations use, hotel and motel, you said that was already there, correct, or no?
I believe that's a new use.
Okay.
Okay.
Showroom, wholesale.
So everything on this page is on the use, it's already approved use.
No, I think he said the hotel and motel was not. This is new, so that would definitely be a concern, especially in that area.
Can you explain what manufacturing and production uses would entail?
I think it fell under the other ones.
That, again, the manufacturing and production use is the overall category. That's not a specific use.
Okay.
So under that, the proposed new uses are the warehouse storage, the showroom, and other wholesale use, which is kind of a catch-all for furniture or lighting and things like that.
Okay.
Okay, so it's already something there with that, because one of the furniture places used to be there. Yeah, one of the furniture places used to be there. Okay. Visitor accommodations, okay. And then, I'm sorry, my question for her, again, I'm sorry, the temporary overnight RV. So that would be only when it was bike week or if it was race week, no?
It would be, I believe the land development code regulations tie it to speedway events. So the races, when they have a recreational vehicle, it would not permit it during Bike Week or Biketoberfest because those are under a separate master planning process.
Okay.
And I hate to piggybacking off of what Madam Chairman had said, can we make this more specific to events that are being held in Midtown so that we can promote our area?
I'd recommend that, I think, and we could review it.
That would be absolutely wonderful. My only other problem is the hotel motel thing on there.
Okay. That's a good idea.
Yeah, let's promote ourselves when we get a chance.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the promotion, but the hotel,
Not-
it can provide some opportunities for the CRE, because you do have room to build that whole parking lot is, you can create a lot of out parcels in that parking lot. So you can really build a hotel in the parking lot. You just won't have any green space.
Right.
Not a lot of green space, but a hotel wouldn't be out of the question.
And while I see the potential for it, my concern is I don't want the Shady Grove Motel on that parcel.
Well, I don't know how many motels are being, yeah, I don't know how many motels have been built today, but
Yes.
hotels, sir. Yeah, maybe we should remove the motel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
hotel.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of those have been built. Yeah.
Hotel.
Well, that's perfect, Mr. Ken.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so I think that we're at the point of a motion, so we need a new motion.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, we'll,
So I'd
never
like to
completed
recall
it.
my motion if I
okay,
could.
yes.
Yeah. Anybody, did we take a list of what you didn't like? Anybody
The
write
main
it
thing
down?
would be the list of uses that we retained, because they were able to.
Or you want to recommend deleting? Because what you
right.
didn't say, the things that you didn't point out, that's
We're
gonna
not
stay.
bothered
Yeah.
those.
Yeah, it's just the ones that you pointed out that you wanted to remove.
Right.
And we got, Mr. Thompson's, first,
Part of it.
recommendation, motion rather. So
Okay.
we have it on tape.
Okay, all right.
So I might suggest just amending Mr. Thompson's motion to include the additional condition that your approval, your recommended approval is conditioned upon the removal of those specific uses that you identified just a moment ago.
Well, I would accept that friendly amendment to my motion. Is it a? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make sure I have a list, and if you're going to restate it, fantastic. If you were just going to adopt that, I wanted to make sure I had the full list. I was going to read what I had.
Go ahead.
So I had for alcoholic sales and services, I had recommending removal of any new uses. Again, like David said, some of them are already permitted, so we'll go back and review. You're recommending removal of the marine sales and service category as a whole.
Yes,
Recommending no motel
yes.
specifically.
Okay.
And recommending that for the recreational vehicles, adding language noting it would be permitted during Midtown special events.
Yes,
I'm glad with that.
And that's what I had.
okay.
Is it permissible for us to accept that friendly amendment from the city attorney? Or does it have to be, because you stated it was.
I think you can adopt the statement that I just made. That's your amendment if you so choose.
So I would accept that as stated by Attorney Russell.
And we have a second?
Eddie Lake second.
All right.
Discussion.
Discussion.
Any discussions? I think we have said everything.
We think we had a long discussion.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, same like sign. Motion carries to move it forward with the adoptions and changes that have been made and recommended by Mr. Thompson, the attorney, everyone. Motion passes. All right, okay, all right. Thank you. Moving forward to staff reports. Captain Conti. And we are so sorry. to hold you this long. Let's speed through.
We start.
Good evening, all. Captain Leo Conde, Daytona Beach Police Department. Give you a brief overview of the stats from March 13, 2024 until today's date, April the 9th. District 1 handled 3,043 calls for service. 724 reports were written. 101 felony arrests were made. 88 misdemeanor arrests were made. 66 traffic accidents. 8 hit-and-run accidents. And as far as traffic stops go, we had 475, 404 citations issued, 33 vehicles towed, and 130 FICs completed. Now, I'm not sure if I brought it up in other meetings that I've attended, but every single month, the police department, me specifically, will choose a area where we focus on our safety traffic initiative. So for the month of March, to coincide with Bike Week, we chose Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard, and we conducted, safety enforcement between Charles and Nova Road. During that time frame, the entire month of March, we had 161 traffic stops, 98 citations issued, 71 warnings, 1 towed vehicle, 3 felony arrests, 1 misdemeanor arrest, 4 reports, and 1 FIC. So this next month, for the month of April, we'll actually be in Zone 5, doing some enforcement in the Derbyshire Road area.
Okay.
Great.
Are there any questions?
I just want to say thank you so much for the monitoring of Mary McLeod Bethune. I live on Fulton, and the speeding down that road has definitely decreased last month. Thank you.
Very happy to hear that.
I have a couple questions. Again, thank you for your service. And
You're very welcome. Thank you, sir.
Do you have the demographic breakdown of those stats that you can share with us? Not tonight, but demographic.
As far as like racial information,
That and ages,
it could be done. I'd be honest with you, it would be a little bit difficult because it would depend on what citations were issued. I mean, that information I can get for you, but it'll just take some time.
Okay.
Because some officers will issue paper citations, other officers will issue, the online version, I guess, the paperless version via computer.
Right.
So it'll just depend. But it can be done. I can get that for you next month if that would
those
work.
that qualified for any diversion, if they were minors.
Yeah, well, it would depend. If it's a felony, then no, obviously. But typically, most officers that are working, have some common sense. So unless necessary, a physical arrest would not be made unless it was for, potential impairment or suspended driver's license or something like that.
Great, thank you.
How is our readout coming that you were working on, the printout?
I wish I had an answer for you. Unfortunately, no. And believe
crystal
me when I
ball.
ask you, I've asked. Unfortunately, no. I just don't have a solid answer to provide, unfortunately.
We appreciate you keeping on that.
It would be nice, though, obviously, that way everybody can see what incidents are happening specifically within the Midtown area. But the Midtown area, as far as police zones go, is comprised of more than one zone. So it'd be, a section of 41, 42, 43, and even 44 zone. So that would be a lot more difficult to manage, but
Yes,
hopefully we can get
praise
that
the
mapping
technology.
system out. Hopefully someone brighter than I.
Thank you for your service.
What's the FIC?
Sorry that we held you
FIC?
so long.
A field interview card.
Oh, okay.
So if an officer were to make contact with someone, it could be for a bicycle violation or even for a traffic stop. If the officer chooses not to issue a warning, they may enter in the computer system verbal warning provided. They should still complete some form of documentation. For instance, if you have your headlight out. So instead of issuing a citation, you can provide the FIC to the person and say, look, in case you get stopped in the next week while you get this fixed, you'll have the FIC at least to cover you during that time frame. But we also still have that lights on program. It's still in effect.
Okay.
So,
Right. Thank you.
you're very welcome.
All right.
Have a good evening.
You as well. Thank you. And I think Ms. Kirk may have already left. That was code compliance. Ms. Tolliver?
Madam Chair, board members, Michelle Tolliver, Redevelopment Project Manager for Midtown. I wanted to start by pointing out that I left you several flyers. There is a lot going on. The job fair is a duplicate because I gave you copies of that last month as well, and it's with you as a reminder for high school students as well as adults who need a job in the manufacturing and technology industry. The housing fair that's coming up at Allen Chapel on the same day as the Seafood Festival. I gave you copies of these to share with family, friends, loved ones, neighbors, strangers, co-workers, as well as the reopening of Daisy Stocking Park on April 20th. And all of this information, except for the housing fair, and I'm going to mention to our marketing department, the housing fair is not on our website, but everything else is posted on our website. The next update is the Stomp Down event. Will not happen in April. I am still in communication with the organizer to try to confirm the August date, and that is slowly moving along, but right now we have not confirmed the August date with them, but the April date has not happened, and it will probably not happen at the Performing Arts Center. They're looking at another location, and when I get an update, I'll provide that to you. Switch gears a second. I made copies of the CRA state statute when we did our orientation with Pastor Lake. Pastor Lake has already been on the board. So he made a suggestion that we include the state statute in your notebooks. So I've made copies, and I'm going to leave the mic and hand them to you, and if you'll put them in your notebooks for future reference.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is Angela has done a fabulous job revising a lot of our current grants. There is going to be a proposed grant that I bring back to you that's going to focus on commercial property, making improvements inside and outside, and the total amount for the project in terms of the interior and exterior improvements, you get 80% of your total project costs up to $50,000 worth of improvements, but I'm just giving you just an overview. You're going to get all this in writing. For projects that the total cost, is that the $20,000 for the design? Okay. You get up to 50% for a project that you need a design drawing done for, a professional design drawing. You get up to 50%, and the maximum grant amount is $20,000. That's one of the grants that she's proposed and recently got approval from the CRA and the Commission on April 3rd. And we're in the process of revising our business facade grant, our commercial facade, and our lease improvement grant to offer you more money, as well as consolidating those three individual grants into one. And we're going to add a roof repair and replacement for commercial property. That's a summary. The next item is on the agenda for April 17th. Let me go back a month. on the agenda for April 3rd was an acquisition for a vacant lot, and the vacant lot is in the same general area that we made 2 other purchases for. They were right at the intersection of MLK and ISB. There was a tent store there for a long time, auto tent, and a vacant car sales lot. In that same general area, down that cul-de-sac, is where we purchased a vacant lot. And the goal for that entire corner, as stated in our master plan, is to turn that into a town center. So there are several acquisitions that we still need to make in order to, and it's several, meaning double digit. There are quite a few parcels that we still have to purchase in order to turn that corner into a town center. But I mentioned the vacant lot from April 3rd. On April 17th, we have an agenda item that will go before the CRA board. The CRA board is basically our commissioners who represent our CRA as well as the city commission. The item will go before them to purchase the old Shiloh building, 4 vacant lots adjacent to the property, and then one of their properties is on Division Street. Right. The goal for this property, this is not in our master plan, because the master plan does not go down that far on MLK, but the proposed ideas that we're putting before the commission and the CRA is to maintain the structure and turn it into a museum, a Black History museum, or if we decide to demolish the structure, we're proposing to do residential on the bottom and, retail on the bottom, and residential, 2, possibly 3 floors of residential on the upper half of the property. Parking and of course landscaping. But that's if we decide to demolish the structure. But hopefully and whatever we do, we're gonna have to find money to make the dream come true. We don't have the money. But that will be on the April 17th agenda. And that is it. Those are all the updates I have. I did want to point out several meetings ago, Mr. Lewis pointed out that there was a sign pointing down a road to the Midtown Center. And I since talked with him, and I don't know why I just thought of it right now, but as a correction, that's a vehicular sign. And Mr. Pierre was probably walking. And if you're walking, it looks like it's pointed down the street, but it's for vehicles, so that once you approach Nova Road, you turn right. And now it's the Cherry Center, so I'm working on getting the sign changed from saying Midtown Center to Cherry Center. Okay. But I think that is it. Ms. Hardy had a question about whether or not there was any speakers throughout the city for emergency broadcasts. And that was several months ago. And I had an answer for you, and I'm just thinking about it again. I don't know why. But anyway, I reached out to our emergency response team, Captain Williams, Byron Williams, and he said that there is no sound system. The only thing that will go out like it normally does is through your TV and your cell phone. But communications in terms of sound system is not available in Volusia County. Any questions?
I don't have a question, I have a comment.
Yes.
I simply want to say thank you so much for the handouts that you give us, because I make copies of them and I put them on what's happening in the community at my workplace.
Thank you.
And my co-employees love it.
Thank you.
So thank you.
The grants programs, those will be decided upon at the committee, at the commission meeting?
The larger one where you're doing improvements to commercial property inside and out, that has already been approved. The others don't need to go back before the commission or the CRA. Okay. We're just modifying them. We're consolidating them into one. But what we are working on is the application to apply for the one that's already approved. It was just approved on the 3rd, and we figured we might as well go ahead and amend the ones that are the ones that are there to offer a little bit more money and to improve it. It doesn't need to go back to the commission. Yeah, but you all will get copies of that. It will be as a separate email from our agenda packets. You'll get copies of that.
Okay.
Any other
Any other
questions?
questions?
But yes, how has the response been the last 2 years?
In terms of our
Programs,
grants?
yes.
Very low, extremely low. And it's not just Midtown, it's throughout. Our grants historically have been for a targeted area, and they've been for a very small dollar amount. Ken and Angela come from Leesburg. They've been here a short time. I've been here a little longer than them, but they came in saying, why aren't your grants being used the way they should be used? And in trying to implement them and use them the way that they are, we're not getting a big response because the maximum, unless you're a historic property and you have to be designated historic, you're talking $5,000, and it's a reimbursement. We're looking at, for the larger ones where you do the design drawings and your improvements of $50,000, we're looking at a forgivable loan as opposed to, matching or reimbursing a small dollar amount. But we've not gotten a good response historically in any of Midtown, downtown, or Beachside.
But it's not a distribution problem of the information, it's...
I don't know what the problem is, but I just know the dollar amount has not been high. Our grants are posted on our website, word of mouth, but they have not been used much historically.
I have a final question. I had heard that, excuse me, I'm sorry, that Orange County, and now it's moved into Osceola County, they've got a program where they're replacing residents' roof due to damage, storm damage and hurricane damage. Do we have, because I know one of my neighbors across the street, she needs this help. Do we have anything in place like that?
We have the redevelopment side doesn't, but our neighborhood services does. It's a rehab program that the city has had for years. Because of COVID, we stopped the program.
Okay.
And when we started it back up last year, we only did roofs.
Right.
And we did well over $1 million worth of roofs, and we've run out of money.
Okay.
And we're trying to get the regular rehab program started back, and that's part of the rehab program. It's to replace roofs.
386?
No, this is City of Daytona. This is in addition to 386. 386 is specifically for the hurricane, but this program is for any resident in Daytona Beach who has had an old house that may need electrical upgrade. Roof is part of it. Mechanical is part of it. There are improvements to bring it up to standard living codes.
What's the name of the program?
It's rehabilitation. It's neighborhood services.
Okay.
I wanted to say redevelopment and neighborhood services because we are one department, but it's the neighborhood services part of it.
Okay.
They have a rehab program that they've had here at the City of Daytona Beach for years.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And you may want to ask the resident, your friend or the person that you're talking about, whether or not they've already been added to the list. Because okay.
They reached out.
Okay.
Michelle, but the Transform 386 is another option for your resident, your neighbor.
Okay.
Yes.
And unfortunately, here in Daytona, because it covers the entire Volusia County, Transform 386. But our local resident, and you don't have to be in the redevelopment area, you can be in the city of Daytona Beach and qualify as long as you had some damages from Hurricane Ian.
Yes.
Okay.
And so when you make application, you have to say that you've had damages from Hurricane Ian. And I'm quite sure, even just the wind, it's alone, a lot of people in this city, they may not have gotten flooded, but just the wind damage on the roofs would qualify you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Very good.
Okay.
Great work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving along to presentations for spotlights, if there is anyone still here? No? Okay.
No, I thought I walked forward anyway. I thought I walked forward anyway.
Pierre.
With all my tax dollars and these new surroundings I talked about. Anyway, Pierre Lewis, 130 South Franklin Street. Good evening to the Madam Chair and to the board members and those viewing audiences. Tonight we had two businesses, unfortunately. Ms. Johnson, because of the fact that it's Soul Food's restaurant, it is a restaurant, and I knew probably something would happen, and she got a mad rush of customers that came in. And sometimes you got to go with profit, I guess, or something like that. So she apologizes for that. But she did try to make the effort to be here, so she won't be here tonight. And the attorney, Ms. Martin, was yelling that was going to be here, and she's in court. So she actually called yesterday. And I talked to Ms. Tolliver about that. She said I could at least mention it at the board meeting, so that's why.
All right.
But we'll try next month.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any old business? New business? Public comments? Mr. Pierre?
She said no public comments. That's a busy job. A round of applause. That's a busy job, man. You're making it happen before it happens to you. I appreciate that. Pierre Lewis, 130 South Franklin Street. It's good to take a couple of minutes to speak to the board again. One of the things I wanted to mention is I was impressed and I was glad to see the conversation they had behind about the uses of the area that's going to go over there by the aquarium. That right there. Because I believe, and my feeling is that the conversation still has to be had. Whether people ruffles feathers or not, you need to at least have that discussion because I believe that that's what the board is here for. So I was glad to see those comments that was there. I also, when I looked at that, I remembered that you've got the PMG study. And the PMG study that's out there talks about commercial uses. It's on page 40. You look at page 40 and actually defines some of those things, not to the actual point that's there. And obviously some of the stuff is a little bit dated because they said tapes and record stores. But I'll leave that on the table. But either way, it does talk about potential businesses that's there. And I think it's 1139 that's there too. And obviously you don't want to get too stuck in the weeds. But my point was still this, is that I was glad to see that the conversation is being had. Because if you don't have that, you'll have businesses that will move into the area, regardless of how the master plan is laid out, regardless of how it is. And pretty soon later on, you'll look back and say, wow, I didn't know they were going to have that there because we didn't have any provision. We didn't have a discussion. So I think that's important. So I was impressed to see that on the board. The second thing I wanted to mention is that I know that I've commented is that the report they've had that report before. I hope that Kevin Conde gives you that because it really defines how some of the stuff is done in area 41 and 43 in the Midtown area, the B2C, because sometimes people will just mention crimes and stuff in another area and it's not actually in Midtown. Why do I think that's important? Because it's important because the last time I just saw the mayor, no offense to the mayor, but they were just doing a report on the affordable housing. And they talked about it was in Midtown. They kept saying Midtown. And where they actually was showing was not in Midtown. That is done quite oftentimes when something occurs, it's not really in Midtown. So I believe that the onus is upon us, not to be divisive, but to delineate and let them know where the Midtown area is when things like crimes are affected, because that's one of the larger things, other than, as me and Mr. Thomas have talked about, is the cleanliness of our areas too. The cleanliness of that, but what's important, like the Boys and Girls Club say, a safe environment for kids, as they have that. We want people to understand that Midtown is a safe place to live and to raise a family. So it's important that we get those numbers, or as you say, that information that's out there, so people can be able to say that's a marketing tool. That's one of the comments that's there. And then the third comment is I did see the grants that was at the CRA meeting that was there, the 80-20 matches, and I actually mentioned it to 3 businesses so far after seeing it on the CRA board meeting and reading it. Hopefully we'll get some traction out of that. And I know it's a larger amount. Like Ms. Thomas was saying, sometimes my experience of seeing is that our customer base and sometimes don't have that matching part. That was a lot of times over the years that I saw. They wanted the grants to that, but they weren't able to come up with that point. But I think Ms. Tolliver said some another, it's refundable, it's done differently now, which I think is a fantastic idea. So hopefully we'll get more and more people that will put in for those grants. As far as, I know distribution, we've walked door to door, there's numbers places. And then the last comment that I'd like to make is, I put in for that Transform 386. They were very responsive, very accommodating. I haven't gotten anything back yet, but at least they talked about it from that point. But anyway, I thought it was a great meeting tonight. And you almost got a different 163, because I pulled my 163 out of mine, and mine is a lot more pages than I saw her hand out. So I don't know what this is mine 163. I don't know if yours is smaller, but mine's a little bit thicker. And I pulled out my reading stuff late at night. This is how bored I am. But either way, so I didn't know if it was much larger, but mine, is that what happened? 4380. Oh, okay, well, there you go. Oh, y'all got the small part. Okay. Ken gave me the big one. He wanted me something to do. He said, no, Peter, you get the whole thing. You ain't got nothing to do. You read this. Anyway, I think it was a great board meeting. Anyway, I enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving forward from the board. Board comments? Ms. Hardy?
Great meeting tonight, very informative. I think we addressed some very important concerns. And as Mr. Thompson said, you have to set the precedents and let businesses know what we will or will not accept and what is appropriate for the Midtown area. So, great meeting.
Right, Ms. Bonner?
I agree. I think it was a very productive meeting and very informative, and it did allow us to kind of break down and to look a little bit harder at some of the things that we want in our community and what would be best for all citizens in the community. So I think that that was very advantageous to us.
Okay, Ms. Washington?
Great meeting, I don't have to be repetitious.
All right.
Great meeting.
Ms. Shepherd?
I'd like to echo my fellow board members' sentiments. The only, you know me, I wish they had brought it to us sooner. And if we can just get something that's going to impact our neighborhood in this magnitude and bring their list to us sooner, we would have more time to expound upon it. That's my only regret.
Okay. Mr. Thompson?
I think I said enough.
All right. And Pastor Luke.
I thought this was a fantastic meeting, so I look forward to engaging even further and drilling down into these concerns. Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, if nothing else, we are adjourned.